Today's lesson is all about investing in and making money with apartment buildings. Hey, what's going on? Justin Williams here, and welcome to the Millionaire University Podcast, the only school where you will graduate rich, not broke. In our last episode, I talked to my brother Derek about some things that he and I have been doing to get great returns on our passive investments. One of those things was investing in commercial syndications, such as apartment buildings. So to build on that, for today, I brought on my good friends Jason and Pili Yarusi to elaborate on how someone could get involved in investing or actively participating in making money through apartment buildings. Jason and Pili were actually clients of mine back in the day, and it's been incredible seeing their journey and how far they've come in, as Pili reminded me, the past decade. But these guys are a great example of someone who had a vision, had a dream, took action. Everything didn't fall together right away, but over time, they've built up this empire, if you will, of both real estate and an education business. So it's been so cool to see their journey, and I'm super grateful that they were willing to come on and share with us. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, rise to your feet, even if it's in your mind, and put your hands together and give it up for the ones, the only, Jason and Pili Yarusi.
Currently, today, we've acquired about 3,000 units of multifamily apartments, about $300 million of real estate across 8 different states. We started on that journey in apartment investing back in 2016. And so that's the trajectory of where we stand today. 3 awesome kids, a bulldog, 13 chickens, and just a fun life here in Middle Tennessee.
2013, we decide a life behind a bar, running restaurants is not for us anymore. And Jason and I go full force into our family's company, which was a house moving company. We actually lifted and moved homes.
The paradigm to that is that company at the time was doing about 12 or 13 projects a year. And right before that time, Hurricane Sandy decimated the East Coast. Hundreds of thousands of homes were affected. And just with that, all those homeowners were either in their home or displaced from their home. And part of them getting back to their home is they were in need to have their houses lifted to be able to meet the new FEMA regulations and hopefully not flood again. So my dad's company, which was doing 12 or 13 projects a year, overnight, going from a couple calls a month, was having about 1,000 calls a day. Wow. So my little brother, who was working for us in New York City, Pili, who was my girlfriend at the time, myself, we moved back to New Jersey to really help Dad scale this business. And over the course of the next couple of years, went from 12 projects a year to 250 to 300 projects a year. Wow. So that rapidly scaled.
We ended up having our first child in 2014. I had jumped onto sales, and I had also gotten my real estate license because one day we all sat down as a family and discussed that real estate and house flipping was the next level of our lives together. And we did that for a good number of years until one day Jason was listening to, I think it was Bigger Pockets, and you found this guy who was like all over Bigger Pockets saying that he could flip 100 houses in a year, that he had done this. And Jason was like, well, if this guy has...
It was actually a Bigger Pockets post, right? But let me give you a little through line to why we kept moving from the bar world to construction world to now house flipping. The thought was everything we were doing was like we had to do to get, right? So you're working at a bar, you have to serve a beer to hopefully get a tip. Same thing with construction. It was so specialized, we couldn't sub it out. So here we are, ourselves, my family, we're actively doing this work. And so we can't pull ourselves out of it. So if we don't show up, we're sick, we can't go to work, it's a holiday, we don't make money. And so constantly looking at where we're going to have a young family now, and our time is our greatest resource, we constantly didn't have time. And so we kept trying to seek what would give us time. So we found real estate. We thought real estate was the journey, but between still owning some restaurants, now here we are running this very busy construction business and flipping this homes.
And I was a real estate agent.
And Pili being a real estate agent.
And we just had our first child.
And you were coming to be pregnant with the second. We were continuing to have less and less time. So our goal of being able to control our day was slowly fleeting away. And so Pili now came upon this thought here where we found who we're talking today, Justin Williams,
Justin
flipping
Williams.
100 houses a day. And we
And I
jumped
remember
into what?
A year,
he
100 houses a
he
year,
used
not
to
a
say
day.
this, put
A year.
100
Yeah,
houses
yeah. That's what it sounded like at the time because it was so
to
foreign to
us.
anything that we would
Yeah.
ever know. And so usually it's that first time you hear it and then you have to dissect it and put it back into to say, okay, can I accept this? And that was our first part of accepting it. And that can carry through to a lot, but that was our journey of meeting Justin. And of course, coming into the mastermind with Justin and learning so much about really what him and his organization was able to do, his company was able to do, and then see other people that were part of the mastermind that were doing these tremendous things.
And giving us this foundation of business. Because we already knew how to flip a house, but it is the operations behind it, doing the same flip over and over again, and actually structuring out your business in such a way that you could actually work on your business and not in your business. So that is how we found and grew our house flipping business and our wholesaling business to where it was in 2018. So let's transfer back to 2016. We get into large multifamily investing.
We kept
Took
looking
down-
for economies of scale, right?
Yes.
So the house flipping, we were doing that fine. The good was not recipe for great. And so we kept looking for that next piece of what was going to be our path forward in real estate. And we came upon buying large apartment investing. So we started investing in small rentals out of state, really did well with that. However, on a scale that just seemed like logistical chaos. So having 50 duplexes all around the country just seemed like a logistical nightmare. Came upon large apartment investing where you could buy this one building. And that made a lot of sense to us. We had, of course, a big construction company. We had small restaurants and big restaurants. We understood that the process, regardless, is the same, whether it's small or large. But the ability to get more and maximize, right? You maximize your revenue, right? You can control expense. You can do a lot of other things that can control the business with a large apartment building. So we sold everything we had back in 2015 and 16, learned a ton through 2016 to acquire our first 94 unit. That was in 2017. That was in Louisville, Kentucky.
Yeah. And that takes us to today. And Jason, let you know about where our portfolio stands.
You started with restaurants, but you weren't you worked together at the time? One of you started working in a bar or a restaurant?
I actually met Pili in 2003. I came to work at this outside bar for construction, and Pili was actually the manager of the bar. So I guess that's a good recipe for our relationship is that
I was already the boss
of this whole thing with Pili is that she didn't even think I was qualified enough to be a bartender. So we could put that out there as the starting place for where our relationship started.
Awesome.
So I had a lot of room that I had to move up to really get to her.
So you guys weren't entrepreneurs at that time. Later on, you became more entrepreneurial.
No, I was very much I went to college, did the college thing. I would get a job, make money, pay rent, and live my life happily. That was my trajectory. I had no huge dreams about opening a business. Yeah. Jason, on the other hand, he got a finance degree. We were both in the arts.
I was constantly doing small things, but nothing just a bunch of stuff, right? I came out, I was working in bars. I opened a restaurant. I opened a production company at one time. We were doing a bunch of things, but I didn't actively know the word entrepreneurship. So I was just doing stuff. My dad had always come from a part where he's had his own business, and I'd seen the trials and tribulations of that side of it with construction. So I was constantly doing things. And at the same time, I would work at bars or do other things that would just give me the fulfillment of having income doing those projects.
And then your dad's company started to take off. You got more involved in that. Pili got her real estate license. And then that's when our paths converged. Mm-hmm. I remember yesterday when you guys joined the house flipping formula program, and then Pili inquiring about 7-figure flipping. And I almost tried to talk you out of it several times. And you're like, I'm in. We're doing this.
No, you did. I remember having a conversation with one of your salespeople, and they were trying to get us to go into, I think you had a 6-figure program. I was like, no.
Totally.
I was like, do I have access to Justin? No. Okay. I want to get into the 7. Here's my credit card. Put us into the 7-figure program. I want Justin's cell phone number because I fully believe. And if you want to grow your business and if you want to grow your network, you have to go to those people that can do that for you. I didn't want the 2nd tier program. I wanted the upper tier program that was going to take our business to the next level. I had seen the proof in the pudding because all of our friends that joined 7 figures, I call it a semester before us, a season before us, were already doing 7 figures. And here Jason and I were scraping by, but putting yourself into the room with people who are doing it is absolutely key.
We didn't have exposure. So we come from a family that has a small business. They've always done a small business. Our network, I grew up in a, we'll say, middle or upper class town that everybody was traditional route. Go to school, go to college, get a job, right? Do that job. So whether it be in some kind of finance, working in Wall Street or some insurance company or medical sales, right? That's what people do, right? That's what you do. So I didn't have the understanding of the other side of people who are out there betting on themselves, because the bet was that, hey, if I get a good job, that's going to be the best bet that I've secured for myself. So having access to other people that were doing these, it helps you understand the dynamics of how you can take calculated risks that actually put you in more control than if you are currently being employed by someone else, because then your destiny is set with the decisions by that person.
So what I love about this is, okay, a few things here. First of all, I got chills when you were talking about the Bigger Pockets post, because on the other end of that, I don't know if I've told you this story, I posted that thing, and it happened to be around the same time Tara went through a 2-year-long depression, right? It happened to be around the same time that this was just starting, and it was a really hard time for us. Like, sometimes people don't know what's going on the other side. We all have lives, we all have struggles, we all have challenges, right? I posted that genuinely wanting to help people, but of course thinking, oh, this might be a good thing to possibly help get some more exposure, right? And more people can find out about our company and stuff like that. And people absolutely crushed me in that post, right? You probably saw some of that, saying that's impossible.
I did. I actually said to Pili, I said he was getting a ton of heat for this, but you broke it down to how you could do it. And I guess people get stuff through story, intellectual, or just really just the numbers. To me, I can get things with the numbers. So I saw what you did. And I was like, okay, I get it. But usually, most times, if people can't see it, they're all automatically going to say it can't be done. So for maybe someone who's only been able to do one flip a year, and we had no exposure to this, so we didn't have a gauge of what was realistic. And what we saw was that you broke it down. We're like, okay, that's what he said he's going to do. So it sounds like it can be done. And so when you do that, it makes it more approachable. And that's why even with the program, we saw all those people do that, right? Saw people doing tens and dozens and hundreds of houses, whether it's on flipping or wholesaling, because they said, okay, here's the steps you do it. Instead of saying, I need to do 100 houses a year, this is what I need to do per month. This is what I need to do per week. This is how many leads I have to get. This is how many calls I have to generate. This is how many closings I have to have, right? And then it becomes real. And when you do that, it makes it so much more approachable.
But what's so interesting about that post is, even though I'm pretty aggressive in some ways, I'm a pretty sensitive guy. People don't always know this about me. So I write this post, and then I'm getting absolutely destroyed. And then Tara comes to me. She's like, I feel horrible. Let's go for a drive. We're in Utah visiting her family at the time. And I'm distracted from being there with Tara because I'm reading these comments about how people are calling me liar and all this stuff. And I guess the point I want to make is, sometimes in life, in business, you got to put yourself out there. And I'm trying not to get too emotional here, but now sitting here with you guys years later, seeing what you've done and knowing that you read that post and that's how you found me. And who cares about all the noise? Who cares about everyone else that saying you're a liar? You're not really doing this. Sometimes you just got to go with your gut and put all that noise to the side, because someone needs to hear what you're saying.
Let's get granular though. It started off with this post and you got ripped apart. But Jason and I saw something. I remember because I was going through postpartum at the time, and Jason was like, I got to get Pili to go do something, to go be around people.
Wow.
And so I jumped in with you. So that lifted me out of that. So there's that, first of all. But then even just with that post, you have to also layer on. So we jumped into 7 figures. We were there for 2 years with you. And then through that, it gave me the knowledge that we could do it. So we got into large multifamily.
Yes.
And then through large multifamily, being able to bring that back to those people that we met within the group that you started. Some of our biggest investors and biggest partners have come through that group. In fact, because of 7 figures, our current largest partners, Bill Allen and Chad King, are 2 of our largest partners. And that came through the 7-figure group because of a post.
And it all comes full circle. And the fact that Bill bought the company from me, and you guys got to know Bill through that, and now you guys are partners. And I think my family alone has half of their net worth with you guys.
He's not really kidding. A decent
amount with you and Bill in the syndications and properties you guys are doing. Anyway, it's pretty wild. We went a little longer on that than I planned, but I just got chills talking about some of that stuff. So I'm like, wow, I don't know. Follow your heart, believe in yourself, don't listen to the noise. As what's her name says, the hater's gonna hate what's her name? Taylor Swift. The most popular, well-known person in the world right now. You just got to block out the noise. Okay, so let's get to this commercial investing. Let's talk about it. This is something that, as we recently sold our house and we had a lot of our equity in there, I've really been doing a lot of investing, passive investing, commercial investing. But there are also other opportunities. Let's do a commercial investing 101. How do people get started if they want to be a quote unquote operator, if they want to be more of a passive investor? There's a lot here, but where do we begin?
So we buy apartment buildings. And for the simple reason is that we use these to go in there and basically make the apartment building a better place to live. And when we do that, the experience for the tenant, of course, gets better, right? So we may raise the rents, but with true awareness that we're improving the building and making this a better experience for them to live in. That ultimately improves the revenue. And being able to improve the revenue and help to control the expenses creates more cash flow. And that cash flow, once we pay the mortgage or pay anything else of expenses that are owed, is something that we now can provide back as revenue or distributions to our investors. So the more we can improve the building, the better the returns will be on the building, and it becomes a more attractive property or more attractive investment for our investors. Our investors themselves, they come and they'll invest with us in an LLC. That LLC buys the apartment community. So each time we find a building, we create an entity. That entity has both us, ourselves, the GPs, we're the operators, right? And maybe some other operator partners with ourselves, along with passive investors. And they will invest money, the passive investors, to help us fund the down payment, fees, closing costs, and any of our construction budget for the project. Together, we buy these apartment buildings, and then those investors partake in those distributions, but they're able to also, depending on how they invest, take part in a number of other attractive things that come from apartment communities. So they're able to get cash flow. They're able to take part in the appreciation, both the natural appreciation that occurs with us being in good markets and forced appreciation, where we improve the building through chosen improvements, and those improvements increase the overall value of the building. Then we get the depreciation, the tax advantages, and the economies of scale of having a large building. This helps compared to a single family investment where the single family house, you have one tenant or you have no tenants, right? So you either have income or you have zero income, right? So your upside and your downside is heavily reliant on that one tenant. With that, you have one roof, right? So if the roof goes or the HVAC goes or the driveway needs to be replaced, they're all relying on that one stream of income. With 100 tenants, we have 100 people that will hopefully have some capacity to pay rent, right? But even if they don't, say we have 95% occupied, I have a 100-unit building, we have 5 that are vacant. If we have 95 tenants paying, it still puts us in a great likelihood that we're able to have enough revenue to overall be able to cover our expenses, pay for our debt service, and have cash flow for our investors.
Wow, I think you talk faster than I do, Jason. So you unpacked my question in about now I'm going to unpack all your comments. So let's go back. How do you find these properties?
So when we are looking for a building, we get specific on where we want, right? It's like the particular activator. Like we want to go out there and buy a car. We just don't show up in the car lot and say, let me just buy a car, right? We know we're going to go find a blue Chevy Tahoe. So then we start seeing them more and they start being more in front of us. Same thing with the building is that we source 75 to 150 units in predominant markets. So in our Nashvilles and our Atlantas, like primarily we're seeking one type of building in one type of market. We're looking for markets that have job growth, job diversity. So there's not just one reliant employer, employment growth. Our landlord-friendly states do not have an oversupply of units, have an increased demand, have continuing historical high occupancy of tenant base. So we look at these areas, and within these areas, we seek the type of building that's going to fit our business plan. So 100-unit building here in Nashville that's built between 1980 and 2010, that would be a great mile marker. So when we're going out there to help others do the same thing and learn how to buy these buildings, we make sure they have a target market. They identify their avatar property. They have the idea of what their business plan looks like. So as they're going for sourcing opportunities, when they find that opportunity, they're better aligned to understand how it operates, what kind of team members they need, from brokers to insurance people to property managers. So as they start to acquire these buildings, they have the whole team around them to help support the business plan forward.
Love it. So single family investing, you're looking on the MLS, you're looking online. Is there a website people go to find these properties for sale? Are you guys sending out mailers? How are you getting in contact with the owner or the agent of these properties that look like they could potentially be a good deal to you?
Broker relationships. So in single family, you call agents, you get on their lists. You don't go to MLS for large apartment buildings, but there are websites that you can go to search out large apartment buildings. But we have found the best way to get to these large apartment buildings is going directly to broker relations or going direct to seller marketing, just like single family investments. But it becomes a little bit of a different animal. So in the single family realm, we just sent out like these little pink or green or yellow postcards. Like we all did that. And people still do that today. For us, it might be a large envelope with information, with all the things that we're looking for, that if they're very interested, they can come and contact us and we'd love to have a conversation. It'll be things that are of a higher caliber so that they know that we are of a higher caliber too.
So 7 of 10 opportunities we find are going to go through brokers. They have the lion's share of the network out there. They're having day-to-day conversations. They know the buyer and sellers that are within the market. So 7 of 10, we're going to find through some broker relationships. So they're very important to cultivate these relationships. Make sure they know exactly what we are looking for so they can help us find it and we can help them to search it out. The other 3 of 10, we have brought through just walking across the parking lot from one building to another, through finding them through just our resources, through lawyers or through other insurance partners, through sending out mailers. There's multiple other ways we'll find these. Or it could be that we've already bought a building from a seller and we'll buy another one from a seller. Now, the difference between most of the single family marketing and the larger commercial marketing is that you are marketing to apartment buildings typically to an investor, right? So the conversation is a lot easier. It's not someone that you send a mailer to because there's some emotional attachment to the house that someone's going to call up and start yelling at you. Most of the time, it's just a truly numbers, financial talk. Hey, you have this building. What's the opportunity here? So it's a much more unemotional conversation you will have with this person because it's typically the owner of an investment. That said, there's more layers for you to get through because most of these are owned in some entity structure, right? So there's LLCs and other parts. So when you send these mailers, it might go to a registered agent or something else that's not directly going to the seller. So there's more layers of the onion for you to peel back to get to the true owner.
So basically, there's less properties. You're sending a bigger package, a little more time, energy, effort, money put into this package, more layers, but obviously the deal's a lot bigger as well, right? So how would someone who's brand new go about trying to develop a broker relationship and or starting to send out these mail? Like I'm sitting here on my computer, like what website would I just look up? Brokers of apartment buildings in Google? And
so you're looking multifamily brokers and say you're in Nashville, Tennessee, or you're looking commercial brokers, Nashville, Tennessee, and you're going to come up with a lot of the larger broker houses. So the Marks and Millichaps, the CBREs, the Cushman and Wakefields, those are going to be it. First thing you can do just to get an idea of the properties they come across is that you can sign up on their databases basically to get on their list. Put your email in, say, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee. I want to look for apartment buildings. And every time they have an offering, and maybe every couple of weeks, every week, you will get an email about that offering. So you can get an understanding to the type of projects that they usually have available because different brokers will have different property types. The Marks and Millichaps might be a $2 to $10 million investment, where the Cushman and Wakefield, they may be $20+ million investment. So you want to know what type of properties you're going after because that's going to help you understand which broker is going to be the best one for you. Underneath, when you see these offerings at the bottom, they're going to have, hey, here's a senior advisor, here's the associate brokers, and you're going to have a list of who are actually the brokers of record on these properties. Typically, you'll have their email, their phone number. You can get a call with them, but when you come to the call, I typically want to give them a frame of what I'm looking for, right? I don't want to say, hey, I want to buy an apartment building, because it would be just like someone here saying, hey, I want to buy in a business. And you'd be like, well, what kind of business? One that makes money, right? That's sometimes how these calls come to the brokers, where if we go and I get on the phone with a company that I know does anywhere between $2 and $10 million offerings, I can say, hey, listen, I'm looking for 50 to 75 units here in Nashville that are built between 1970 and 2000. I see you've had a couple properties out like that. I'm looking for a typical project size of 5 to 8 million. Now they have a reference so they can understand what exactly I'm searching for. So when they have that kind of opportunity, I can be on their mind to give me that type of investment as an opportunity for me to dissect.
And it's also really helpful to have your sort of real estate resume, especially if you're new. It is very helpful if you have a mentor who is allowing you to put them as a board of advisors. So say you're a house flipper and you want to get into large multifamily. You can tell the brokers about your house flipping experience and how many single family rentals that you have in your portfolio. But what they also want to know is, can you close? Yep. Who is on your resume that can help you to close? So for instance, if you went or we're going after something here in Murfreesboro where Jason and I live, and you happen to get to the deal before we did, if you had our names on your resume and we were your mentors, it would give the broker more justification to keep on feeding you more information or to even work with you because he knows that you have the backing of a really good mentor.
Do they refer to that as a sponsor?
So they may need to come on and sponsor the loan depending on the type of project.
Okay, got it.
Our first project, we were able to do ourselves. We had enough energy and just enough knowledge. We had built a team around us in terms of the property managers. So we had a bunch of people working with us to help us make sure that this would be the right investment and also a successful investment. However, if you do not have the net worth to qualify for the loan, or you don't have the cash flow or just the cash requirements for the loan, you may need to bring on an additional person who has the ability to balance sheet to help you do this project. So it really just comes down to you and where you're starting of the other resources that you may need to be able to get the deals done.
Where would you go to get a list if you're going to start mailing these people?
You can go to CoStar. That's typically a paid one right there. There's also a Reese and Moody site or a Yardi site. These are paid platforms you can go, and they typically have the owners of apartment communities, and we'll have some breakout of the information of the ownership list.
Okay. So obviously there's many angles to get into this.
We are talking about limited partners and active partners. And you had mentioned this in the beginning when we first started talking. I really want to hone in on that. So a limited partner is the investors that come in. They provide funding to the deal. What Jason and I do is the active partner side. We actively deal with the deal. We take care of the tenants. We take care of the management. We take care of finding the funds to take the deal done. We also find the deal. So if you want to be on the active side, then a program like 7-Figure Multifamily would be amazing for you. But if you wanted to be on the limited partner side, the best thing to do is do your due diligence and your research on those partners, on those investors. Jason and I fully believe that the numbers have to work on the deal. And we can run numbers with you every day. But if you don't invest with someone that has the knowledge and has the historical knowledge to get through and get a deal to the finish line, then you need to keep looking for that person to invest in.
I want to get into the passive in just a minute, but if someone was interested in being active, someone who has never ran a business, never been in real estate, never done a deal, they're not just going to go out on their own if they don't have the funding and just take down this 200 unit apartment building. Probably not realistic, right? But the different foot in the door strategies is if they can learn like how to reach out to these people and some of the basic questions to ask, they could potentially act as like a bird dog for someone like you guys or someone who has a lot of experience in multifamily. They could act as like a bird dog for them and get paid probably a finder's fee. I know they do that in single family. Is that something in the multifamily realm?
A lot less than you see in the single family world, but we have brought deals from people sourcing the deal out there and bringing us as part of the deal because this was a project above their wherewithal and their main goal was to be able to do this. And when they do that, they can be a partner of the deal and have equity share in the deal for basically sourcing those types of projects. Yes.
Even with that, we can label them bird dogs, but really they're acquisition specialists. Like that type of acquisition specialist is very involved in the multifamily aspect. Another way to do it is to get into a program where you can learn, take it a step further than YouTube University, and go and talk to mentors, go and talk to people who are doing it and learn that way and find a program that's appropriate for you, that you can learn the basics and then take action necessary.
Love it. So I want to spend the rest of the time talking about passive investing. I'm in a situation, my brother's in a situation where I just sold my house, had a bunch of equity from that. He sold a bunch of his short-term rentals. I have a friend, a doctor, and he's, hey, I want to start a business. I'm like, no, you don't. You're a doctor. I asked him, I said, what do you really want? Are you dying to start a business? He's like, no, I want to make more money and do it passive. I'm like, you don't want to start a business. You already make good money. You just got to learn how to invest your money. I was blown away because this guy's super smart and he didn't even know the basics of investing. So he now invests with you guys and Bill. What does that look like? I'm just going to throw out some stuff. You guys are like, no, we didn't break it down differently. We're like, how it's what is like 30 to 70% ownership, 70% the investor, and then they get paid the 7% return, and then there's the upside. Anyway, I'm butchering it.
No, you're doing a good job to get
yes.
Yeah. So,
but before we jump into the numbers, I also want to just say a little bit on you have to know your investor. Or you have to know that, for instance, your doctor friend, you introduced your doctor friend to us and Bill because you have this long-standing, over a decade relationship with all of us. So there's that. You have that connection.
100%.
Make sure that the people that you're investing in, you make that connection with them, because these types of investments could be 3 years, 7 years, 10 years, depending on the scope of the investment.
First rule of investing is don't lose your money. Right?
That's exactly right. Yep.
Invest with people that have a track record. You've done your due diligence, 100%.
Yeah. So we buy these as an LLC as we member. And so say within there's 100% of ownership interest, right? We own 30% and the investors, all the passive investors have 70%. This is our standard, right? They can all change, but typically just an average idea of how we do it is that investors will own 70%, we will own 30%. However, with the investment, because the investors are coming in and we are putting our own capital, but they are also putting up the lion's shares of the capital to help us have the down payment, the fees, the construction budget to be able to buy and operate this project, they get a preferred return. What this means of available distributions that come out, the investors get the first returns, right? So preferred return is they may be a 7%, might be 8% of their investment each year. And this happens before there's any of that additional split, 70-30 of the upside starts to happen where we take part of it. This is a good alignment of interest because they are putting up the lion's share of the capital, that they have to have this preferred return met to be able to go into this cash flow requirement where this is part of the cash flow and also part of the profit at sale. Beyond this, there's the depreciation. So we do something called cost segregation, where it's a financial engineering study where we take the building and instead of having it streamlined over 27 and a half years, we're able to use cost segregation to break down, like your carpet never lasts 27 and a half years, but the carpet is a 5-year component. So if there was $100,000 of carpet, traditionally it would go out streamlined, split that by 27 and a half years. Here we take it over 5-year categories. We take it in bigger chunks up front. So even though you're getting some kind of revenue from the property, depending on how you're investing, you might also get a paper loss that you can use to offset some of your income that you're making in your other investments out there and be able to get offsets to those so you're not having such a heavy tax burden.
Let's talk about accredited investor versus non-accredited and what the opportunities are there. What does that mean to be an accredited investor?
For an accredited investor, there's a couple things, but the ones that are most well known is either you need to have $1 million net worth, not including your personal residence. So this would be net worth, whether it's business, other investments, other houses that are rental houses, or you have to make $200,000 a year for the last 2 years if you're an individual, or that would be $300,000 a year for the last 2 years if you're married. Another way you could do it is if you have a business and that business was worth $5 million, that's another way. That would be an accredited investor. The sophisticated investor is someone who does not basically meet those requirements, but has some business savvy or business knowledge or investment knowledge. We all have friends and family that maybe make $150,000, but are completely business savvy or have invested for a number of years and are able to make educated decisions. And we do 2 types of investments. One is a 506c, where we can openly market. Like today, we have an investment, right? It's a 506c. We could tell your audience who we don't know that they could invest with us as long as they were accredited, right? To meet the first requirements. If we have the other type that we offer at times, it's a 506b. What that does is it allows accredited investors, but it also allows the sophisticated investors who are not accredited to invest with us. But the stipulation is we can't openly market it, and it has to be to our network, to people that we have a pre-existing relationship with.
Bottom line for anyone listening, if you're an accredited investor, you're open up to a bunch of different investment opportunities. But if you're not, there's still plenty of opportunities.
The thing is, if you're not accredited, the best thing to do is, for instance, if you're not accredited and you're listening to this podcast, reach out to Justin. If you've known Justin or you've heard Justin for the last few years, reach out to Justin and he will either find somebody for you or give you a list of people that he's worked with. Of course, no investment is ever promised, but you can go out and start talking to people. What I try and do when I talk to non-accredited investors is that I want to listen to their story. I want to listen to some of their financial background, and I can gather all this without actually telling them to open up your financial statement. Yeah. And I want to make sure that they have some basic knowledge. And if they don't, then great, it's on me to give them that basic knowledge and create this relationship that maybe in the future, because even our passive investors are limited partners. So these relationships can turn into partnerships into the future, but it takes a little while to establish that.
I love it. So guys, this has been amazing. You guys have shared a wealth of knowledge with us. My head is spinning. I'm glad that I'm on the other end where I can just give you my money and let you figure it all out. If anyone is interested in learning more about how they can either be an active or a passive partner with what you guys have going on, where can they find you?
You can go directly to our website, Yarusi Holdings, Yarusi, the word holdings.com. That website will take you to us. It'll take you to our educational program, and it'll also take you to our current offerings.
Mic drop. This has been great. It's been awesome knowing you the past decade. Isn't that crazy? And we still look sexy as ever.
So sexy.
All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon. Aren't they the coolest? Now, something I want to point out is as I was talking to Jason and Pili, I saw this pattern. And as I thought about it, this is the pattern I see in all successful business owners and investors. It all starts with a desire for something more, a desire for something better, a desire for change, a hope, a belief, a hope and belief that that change can be made. Then comes a lot of imperfect action. From this action comes information, feedback, knowledge, experience, failures, triumphs, constant pivots, constant adjustments, constant recalibrating of the direction that one might go to reach these goals that they have. This also comes with connections, with relationships. And when people see that you're an action taker, that you're not just someone who talks, they start to take you more seriously. They want to be associated with you. They want to work with you. They want to be a part of that. They can feel it. And then you're able to take that knowledge, that experience, those relationships, and the things you've learned through creating systems and processes, and you're able to create something amazing. But it all starts somewhere. As we've been driving through New Zealand these past couple weeks, we've seen a lot of trees. And it's so interesting because you see this pattern of you see a bunch of big trees, but then you see other trees where you could see that they got cut down recently. But then not too far from them, you see some smaller trees, and you can see trees that have been planted, and you see trees in all these different stages. We need the resources that come from trees. So you have these people out there that are constantly planting trees, letting them grow, taking care of them, then cutting them down, using them, replanting them. And I think the thing is, most people in life, they want the resource that comes from the tree without planting the tree, without nurturing the tree, without taking care of the tree, without putting in the work and the effort that it takes to grow something special, to grow something that will then give back to you. Now, it seriously blows my mind to think that I first met Jason and Pili a decade ago. I mean, it just makes me feel like, oh man, I'm getting older, right? But the truth is, like, time goes by so fast. And I used to look at things like, oh, I need it now. It's got to happen. And the truth is, like, changing that perspective changes everything. It's not about overnight success. It's not about getting everything you want right now. Honestly, that would be the lamest life ever. Just being honest with you. It's about putting in the consistent and persistent work that it takes day in and day out. And once again, I'm not talking about the hustle or the grind or working 80 hours a week. I'm talking about just consistent and persistently doing the most important things that matter the most today. Now, you're saying, oh, what is the most important thing? You never are going to know the most important thing. If we did all know that, we'd all be billionaires 10 times over. But doing what you believe to be the most important thing to do today. And then constantly working in your business a little bit, but also trying to work on your business, taking a step back so you can take 10 forward. Taking, as Jason mentioned, those calculated risks. And risks become less risky as you continue to learn and grow and surround yourself with the right people and take action. So anyway, I could go on for days, and I will go on for days because we ain't going anywhere. We have so much planned and so much in store for Millionaire University. But just like you guys, it takes time because there's nothing more important to me than my family. It's like, why am I doing it? I'm doing it so I can be here right now with my family, so we can travel the world, so we can have these experiences. And no, it's not perfect. It's been a growth process in and of itself. But the reason why we're able to do this, the reason why we can pretty much go where we want, when we want, how we want, we answer to no one. And by we, I mean Tara and I. Okay, we kind of answer to each other. But it is because of that tree that we planted many years ago. So if you've planted that tree, keep nurturing it, keep planting more trees. If you haven't planted that tree yet, don't wait till tomorrow. Plant it today. Or if it's late at night, you can plant it tomorrow. But just get going. And at first, yeah, you got to do something, just how Jason was saying. He was working at restaurants, working at bars. He was doing whatever it took to make money. He went and helped his dad's business. So you got to be doing the things that are going to make you money today if that's one of your needs. But just constantly be thinking about the future and growing something, building something that can give back to you. Just how Jason and Pili were mentioning, you aren't just exchanging the time for dollars. It's not like you have to do something to get that, but something that can then be growing for you and working for you, regardless of what you're doing. That's the best part. All right, guys, that's all we got for today. Hope you have a great week. We will be heading to French Polynesia in just a few days, so we're super excited for that. So we'll keep you posted. Keep taking action one day at a time. You got this. I believe in you. You can do it. Until next time, this is Justin Williams, your Chief Money-Making Officer, signing off. Class dismissed.